I'm Rachel Romeliotis, a senior editor at O'Reilly, and I'm here at Velocity, New York 2013 with Joshua Hoffman. He's an engineer at SoundCloud. Thank you for joining me.
Hi, Rachel.
So, in your talk tomorrow, you are going to be talking about a company that is migrating their hosting to their own servers. Can you give me sort of a play-by-play of like how you would go about doing that?
Right, so simple, right?
Yeah.
This is the story of a company that's hit this mythical hockey stick we hear about. They're at this enormous growth phase, and how do you deal with it? How do you take everything that has worked because you weren't at large scale and move to things that will work at large scale? And that's really what this migration was motivated by. In terms of play-by-play, obviously there are a lot of technical details, but I think the number one most important thing is before you can consider any kind of big move like this, you have to get your house in order. And if you come to my talk tomorrow, you'll see a lot of details about that, but it really means getting stuff to a place that works where you already have it before you migrate it. Because a lot of people look at that migration as this is the solution to our problems, and it is the solution to a problem. But you have to have your fundamental problem solved. You have to have stuff working well before you can actually approach the migration. Otherwise, you have no hope of pulling it off successfully.
So that would be like pain point number one. Are there other ones that you need to think about before you actually then go into the migration?
Well, you're going to take on a whole lot of new responsibilities. So one of the beautiful things about managed hosting is you can start a company, you just throw some money at them, they give you some servers, they handle the network, they make everything easy for you. And at first, that's great. When you start to outgrow that, it's because you need to take those things on yourself, but that's a whole nother level of operation.
Sure.
And so one of the pain points is that in moving to owning all of this yourself, you don't know, you have a lot of untested stuff. You have to find ways that you can really build confidence in your solution before you throw 50 million users at it or 200 million or whatever you have.
Sure. Were there any sort of like unexpectedly difficult areas like that you would expect someone to run across?
It's an interesting question. One of the challenges that I've faced at previous jobs is if you have a large enough presence in managed hosting, you can't publicize the fact that you're about to walk away from it, because then they can really mess you up with contract negotiations.
Right.
So hiring, staffing, and building a data center in secret is a really interesting challenge.
Wow. How about, what are some sort of, do you know of any best practices or tools that people could, latch onto right at the beginning that would maybe help them through the process?
Well, I'm happy to say, actually, last year I spoke at Velocity and talked about this tool, Collins, that I did when I worked at Tumblr, which we open sourced, and it is an asset management system that was written because there's no open source to address this. A lot of good stuff out there, but having a handle on your assets, being able to manage everything, understand their states, and having a piece of software that's flexible enough to do that in a managed hosting environment or in your own environment is a critical tool. And we at Tumblr ran up against the fact that no such tool existed, so we ended up building it. Very proud of the fact that we open sourced it. There are now a couple dozen startups actually using it. And I think this piece of software really makes the whole process a bit easier.
That's great.
It's called Collins. It's open source. And
that's awesome. Yeah, definitely check it out. So where would you like to see operations in the next few years?
That's a great question. I think self-serve is the only way you survive at scale. Anything that involves the operations department in sort of an obstacle type role, which is where it's often perceived, doesn't work. Operations needs to focus on facilitation, and that means self-service. And it's easier said than done, right? Creating systems where engineers, instead of having to petition the ops department for resources, can just go in, click a few things, and get the resources they need, and still not have everything fall apart into absolute chaos. That's really tricky. But I think that's where ops needs to go. Another thing I'd like to see is I'd like to see ops as an industry in general be a little bit more into looking at the past. I've been in this industry a while, and I see startups over and over again just solving the same problems, doing the same work over and over.
Sure.
And as this body of open source builds that we can all share, and companies now are great about releasing tools, but we still have this temptation to think that we're breaking new ground.
Right.
And it really helps to look back at what's been done before, what can we build efficiencies on, what can we understand about this craft that we're really not learning new, that there is a lot of tried and tested knowledge, but at the same time, of course, always being open to new ideas.
Yeah, that is very helpful, and you've given a lot of great tips for people that are going to do this, so thanks for stopping by.
Cool, thank you.